And after you've kind of dove into where am I going to invest, what type of property am I going to invest, then you want to dive into how am I going to get that property leased. You need to have a game plan before you go into it. So if you don't have a game plan, you're setting yourself up for failure.
It's time for the Creative Real Estate Podcast, your source for out-of-the-box real estate investing strategies, brought to you by ecospace.com. Now, here's your hosts, Adam and Jason.
Hey guys, this is Jason Lewis, the random real estate guy, and I get asked a lot how to invest in real estate. Given the fact that I've built a personal portfolio a little over $20 million over the last 15 years by grinding and hacking it out, I get asked how to get there, where to start, or even if you just have already one or two investments and you're looking to get into vacation hacking, or you have some properties already and you're looking to maybe get into multifamily or smallplex investing, the 2 to 12 units. Or land. So today I'm going to go into the 3 areas that people should cover before they take that next leap. The first one that I'll cover is how to invest. It's essentially things like where and what markets and when. And the second is, okay, you've bought the property or already have it and you're looking to convert it to a rental. How are you going to lease it? So steps and processes you need to figure out before you dive into that. The third is you own the property, you've got it rented, you have a tenant in there. Now what? Essentially, you have to manage it. So those are the 3 things that I have people dive into as much as they possibly can before they take that final leap. So let's jump into number 1, which is how to invest. So things like the market. One thing I toss out to a lot of people if you're looking for a long-term rental is looking at the GRM of a market. That's a gross rent multiplier. Let's say that you can buy a house that rents for $1,000 a month. The GRM at $100,000 purchase price would be 100. It takes 100 times that month's rent to equate to the purchase price. So an easy, quick, just kind of temperature check on the market to whether or not it's a rental market or more of an owner-occupant market where most of the people live in it and there's not very many rentals is the GRM. So if you're looking at a house that has a 300 GRM and you're looking at a neighborhood that averages are 150 GRM, without knowing anything more, I would dive in and spend the time to look into that area that has that 150 GRM because it's only 150 months that it's going to take me to kind of get my investment back without diving into all the other OPEX and insurance, taxes and all that. It's just a basic temperature check. And also why I say that is a lot of people want to convert their house that they live in, their first house they bought, to a rental before they move out. So you need to dive in and see what the GRM of your neighborhood is. If it's a very desirable area to live in, from an ownership standpoint, your GRM is going to be very high. So it might be better to go ahead and sell that property, take the tax 2-year owner-occupied tax benefits, taking tax-free, and then go to a lower GRM area to invest. So those are things that how to invest that you want to kind of dive into. Just what markets, what type of property, layouts, how are you going to invest? So there's so many. I mean, we could talk for hours on just those things, but figuring out your goal of investing. I mean, it's super high level. Then after you've kind of dove into where am I going to invest, what type of property am I going to invest, then you want to dive into how am I going to get that property leased. You need to have a game plan before you go into it. So if you don't have a game plan, you're setting yourself up for failure. Whether it's converting your house or Airbnb or whatever that might be, it's just how are you going to do that? So there are companies that do just leasing only. Even in the short-term world, there is companies that for a 10% fee of Airbnb, they will just help you kind of place and communicate with the tenant, but they won't handle any cleaning. They won't handle any repairs. They simply just handle the booking. Our property management company I own, we will do that on long-term rental as well, as we will place tenants for people, but if they wanted to manage it themselves. So finding out how you want to place that tenant. then you also want to just make sure that, are you going to follow the rules, fair housing rules and regulations? Are you going to know about them? A lot of people just dive in and they post an ad and they choose who they feel is best. There's a gray line when you're self-managing, whether or not that's illegal or legal, of how you choose that tenant. Do people do it all the time and stretch that gray area because they're kind of self-managing? They don't follow as many guidelines as we do as professional property managers and brokers, but there's still more into that illegal side. So just knowing those things of, how are you going to find the tenant? How are you going to choose it? What's your lease that you're going to give to them? Application screening, things like that. There's just so many items you can dive into, just making sure you get the best tenant possible, and the marketing and the photos and all of those. Okay, now you have a tenant in there, or you have it set up for short-term rental on Airbnb. Next thing is you got to actually manage it. You own it. A tenant is in there. Now you got to deal with the dishwasher. You got to deal with the roof. You got to deal with, if it's a short-term rental or such, that the keypad won't work because it's too cold and the battery died. Who and how are you going to handle all of those things? Along with that, it's just who's going to pay your insurance? Who's going to handle all the legalities of if there's issues, evictions? There's so many things that come with this realm of just day-to-day management of it that you kind of need to figure out and have a game plan in advance. Even a situation is once the tenant moves out and you're getting ready to kind of repeat the whole cycle again, before that can happen, it's what's wear and tear. You need to know what your definition of wear and tear is. If you get into a legal battle and a tenant disputes that and they win, it's 3 times the value of what you tried to hold back. So if you say that's above and beyond wear and tear, they go to court, they win, and it's $1,000 of damage, you call it, but the judge says, no, that's normal wear and tear, then you have to pay them $3,000 here, at least in our state. So things like that of just knowing and diving in is very important. So figuring out where, how, who, when, all of that of buying the property. Second, how are you going to lease it? Third, how you are going to manage it. If you can do that right, the question that everyone wants to then be able to dive into is, how am I then going to spend my retirement dollars and time? Because that's the ultimate goal, how I can retire with, quote, passive income. One, it's never passive. It's good income. There'll be some headache and hassle that kind of comes to it. So I just want to put that out there. But once you have these systems in place, it's more passive, and you can do it from a beach or the mountains. So that fourth thing, if you do these first 3, is figuring out how you're going to retire and where and how, and enjoy life, smile and give back. And hopefully you can do good, take the money you've made on this property and share the wealth and pass it on. So ultimately our goal is to add value to the tenants that stayed there, to the guests, to the property, to the community, to anyone and everyone that kind of touches that property is our goal. So hopefully we've added some value today to you in this little value add tip of the day. If you have any questions on what I've kind of gone over today, feel free to reach out to us. Or if you have any questions just in general, real estate investing or property management, myself or one of our team members would be love to add some value to you, answer those questions. And lastly, we'd love to have you follow along in our content journey of trying to add value. So feel free to subscribe, like, comment, or share, and make sure you don't miss out on future value add tips.
Thank you so much for listening to the Creative Real Estate Podcast. And if you got value from this episode of the podcast, please take the time to leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Give us a written rating and a review. We'd really, really appreciate it. I'm going to let you go, but until next time, think outside the box.